Hello, sorry for the delayed start, a few technical issues, but welcome to the 6th webinar in our GIS for Housing series, From Data to Decisions, Transforming Social Housing with GIS. So today we have a great lineup of speakers for you, which I'm really excited about. So first we'll hear from Thomas, the Business Intelligence Senior Developer at Jigsaw Housing, who's going to share with us their journey through starting to use geography to understand Jigsaw's data, building out applications to answer questions for the business, and a peek into what's next for GIS at Jigsaw. So we'll then hear from Ian at our partners ODC GIS, and Ian is going to share a customer success story from one of their newer Welsh housing customers, Adra, who are bringing together the ArcGIS system and ODC GIS's managed service to help them deliver excellent services to their customers. Finally, we'll be joined by Tom from Esri UK to share some of the exciting new data available in the ArcGIS system, including the OS National Geographic Database. So Tom will bring that data to life with some examples of some use cases. But first, just a few quick housekeeping notes from me. So the webinar is being recorded and we'll be sharing a link out in a follow-up email. That email will also include any links mentioned in the webinar by our speakers. We should have time for a Q&A at the end of the presentations, but any questions that we don't manage to answer on the webinar will be answered in the follow-up email. So please do post your questions to our Slido. You can access the Slido either by scanning the QR code on the slide here or by entering the event code House2407 on the Slido website. I'll have the QR code and the event code on a few of my slides, so if you haven't quite managed to connect it yet, don't worry. So I'm going to kick things off with handing straight over to Thomas to share his work at Jigsaw. So over to you, Thomas. Hopefully all goes shares.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can all hear me.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. My name is Thomas Date. I'm a senior BI developer with Jigsaw Homes Group. We are based in northwestern Manchester, but we've got properties across the whole of northwest, part of Midlands, and also some properties in Nottingham. All our properties are mostly general use, but we've been having a lot of work done with Esri in ArcGIS lately. So I'll just share with you the journey that we have gone through from when I joined the company and when we started using ArcGIS up to where we are today. With us, there's a lot of information that we use in our organization. We use tablets to do with apps. We also use maps that I build and manage. We also use ArcGIS to do some bit of analysis, and we also download lots of data from our maps to present to stakeholders. About Jigsaw. We quite a large social housing provider with thousands of properties under our management, geographic spread and across multiple regions. Most of our focus areas are tenant safety, development, sustainability, and we also do some welfare housing. So we've got a lot of properties across different sectors. Our tenants mostly general needs, which also is part of most councils and most housing associations, and we work across different types of organizations that we provide and work with. We also do have some retirement and living homes and supported living properties where people are cared for by part of our staff and some external stuff as well. ArcGIS, when it came to Jigsaw Homes Group, we had Map Info as a system, but Map Info was not live anymore, so there were not live updates. We were using a lot of paper maps, and we then contracted a company called Urban Green, which then started doing some work for us. But they had their own issues, and they had their own team that was working on the ground, and they couldn't give us everything that we wanted to do. So that's the time when I joined the group, and we had a lot of issues with boundaries, disputes, and a lot of growing concern these days, and part of those days of damp and mold in homes. We then started transitioning our maps. There were a few map info maps that we had and a bit of data. So we moved that to ArcGIS, and from then we created our first map, which was our master map, using the land title, and also writing some queries. Was helped by Esri, part of Esri's team, who came over, and we started our first map, which was our master map. And we then started using Survey 123 for live data collections, and that team, it was supported by my team, which is the BI team, and also the arboriculture teams, which is the team that goes out and looks after our trees and our plants stock within our properties. So at the moment, ArcGIS is used for performing spatial analysis. We geocode some of our our data from our data warehouse. We also manage some geodatabases and attributes, which is the tables that we then export to do part of our some of our analysis. We also using ArcGIS field maps for surveys and map viewing. A lot of our teams that are on the ground do download applications like field maps, and they use it for surveys, and they also use it for viewing our properties, our lands, and our boundaries. We do customize some of our maps specifically for our stakeholders. If some people want to see certain things, we do try and make sure that it's showing all the things that they are looking for. We are in the process of automating some of our tasks using Python. So we have created a new notebook together with Esri, which is being used at the moment to create a layer of our properties and update new properties onto our system. And this is done on a weekly basis. Our key project is the tree survey and ground maintenance team. This project was started because we needed to satisfy compliance. We had the housing ombudsman come to do a survey and inspection at our properties, and the company and the organization, and we were found short in the tree stock, or we didn't know how much trees we had and where the trees were sitting on our properties. And unfortunately, in the same year, we had one of our trees fall on one of our tenants, and it became a major issue. And we had to make sure that we comply with the compliance from ombudsman. We also use ArcGIS for land ownership mapping. We've written a query to clip all our properties using the proprietor name 1, which is everything that's owned by Jigsaw, all our companies. So we created a query that is pulling all our lands. We've also mapped private land owners close to our properties and other commercial lands within 10-mile radius of our properties. We're using ArcGIS a lot to do a lot of response, especially to the damp and mold issue that is happening at the moment. So we have mapped all the housing stock from our query. That's where we have, it was mentioned, damp and mold. And although in the first instance, it didn't give us a clear picture of what is happening, it has now given us an opportunity to create a new system within our organization that is being used by all our repair work teams. When they go into properties, as soon as they see damp and mold, they click on their tablets or on their handheld devices. That data is fed onto our data warehouse. We then map that data onto our systems. It is helping us to pinpoint this issue, and we have been able to quickly respond to these areas using our maps. We've had also issues with boundary disputes, where sometimes Ordnance Survey takes a bit of time to upload data onto systems, and during that time, maybe some of our members will go in and try and do work on properties or on grounds, and we've had a lot of queries, and also we've had a lot of issues using the Ordnance Survey titles metadata, but the maps we have created are making it easy for people for our operatives to solve these boundary issues and reducing conflict with our neighbors. We've also had we have adopted some highways and some pathways. So we need to look after those areas and the pathways and the boundary. So we are using a lot of ArcGIS to resolve these issues. So when we go to maintain, or if we go to repair paths and fences, we use ArcGIS, which is supporting us in making and resolving all the legal issues. We have had a lot of issues with trees, like I said before. So Survey 123 has been a very helpful tool for us, and it's helping us to streamline all the data and making sure that we've got control of what we own. Ongoing challenges. Recently, we've had one of our tenants buy property from us, because some of our properties we sell them onto our tenants. So we sold the property, and the tenant had data for radon mapping, and they realized that the property was sitting on a high radon area, and they went to court and disputed the price of our property. So that's when we started using ArcGIS radon mapping, so that when we price our properties, we know exactly what's the value of the assets. We are still integrating with most of our tools like Power BI, and hopefully in the future we'll have all our maps available on the go. And we also there's a lot of change within our organization. There's new people coming and new people and people going away. So every time people go and we bring in new people, we still have to train them so that they know how to use the system. We have got a massive issue with arboriculture technicians. There are not a lot of them around, and when you find them, they're quite expensive. And so our tree surveys still facing a bit of challenges. So we are trying to move some people who were in our ground maintenance team to start using tablets when they go out to try and map our trees as stock. There's also a lot of changes in legislation, especially in housing. So we will continue to face these as we go along. Issues with boundaries, these will continue because when people buy properties, this data is not quickly updated onto Ordnance Survey, and we won't be able to know which properties belong to us quickly enough. In the future, we hope that we'll add most of our environment risk areas like floods, radon. We also hope to integrate all our surveys into all our systems. And we also want to make sure that we create dashboards that are public facing, so that we'll be able to our tenants will be able to view this data on the go. And we also, hopefully, we will be able to integrate with Power BI to do GIS insights, integrate with other data tools, so that in the future, everything will be in one place. That's our journey. Not taking too much of your time, but thank you for listening to me. Hopefully, I'll have a few questions going.
Brilliant. Thank you, Thomas. And it's really great to see how much you and Jigsaw have achieved over, those relatively few years since you started using GIS. I think, the range of the use cases that you've addressed is brilliant, but also with more to come, which is very exciting. So thank you. Right, so our next speaker is Ian. So I'm going to pass to Ian to tell us all about their work with ADRA. So over to you, Ian.
Brilliant. Thanks, is it? I'll just share my screen in a second. Yeah, so hopefully you guys can all see that. Yeah, so thank you very much, Izzy, for inviting us to talk. My presentation is talking about ADRA's journey with GIS, and I'll go through it as we go through the PowerPoint. So, just to get started, I thought I'd talk about who ADRA are. Some of you might know who they are, but just to kind of go into a bit more detail around who they are, but then talk about the recent GIS requests, why ODC GIS, who I'm talking on behalf of ADRA, got appointed as the providers of the managed services, and then talk about how they're getting the benefits out of the systems and the future plans with it as well. So ADRA was formed in April 2010 through a large-scale voluntary transfer of homes from Gwynedd Council, and they've grown to become one of the largest housing associations in North Wales. So by the 31st of March 2024, they were responsible for 7,400 homes and providing services to 18,000 local customers, making a significant impact on local communities. So managing such a vast and varied portfolio demands robust data to ensure decisions are well informed and their vision is realised. So at its core, ADRA, as you can see, ADRA strives to provide homes that are affordable, reliable, and meet the Welsh housing quality standard. And their strategic direction, outlined in their corporate plan, emphasises three key pillars. So being ambitious in addressing inequality, driving new construction, and expanding customer opportunities. Being trusted through their commitment to reliability, responsibility, and customer respect, and being open and fair in all of the dealings as well. So ADRA initiated a tender process in November 2024 to replace their existing Geographic Information System and database. The previous systems just weren't being fully utilised across the business. And what they needed was a versatile and robust GIS that would serve as a central platform for managing, visualizing, and analyzing spatial data. So this would consolidate fragmented data sets, creating a single source of truth for all property and tenant information and enabling integrated decision making as well. So the key requirements for the new system included a user-friendly and intuitive interface, customization options for different departments, which is something that Thomas has just touched on, which is good, and seamlessly integrating with existing databases. And then crucially, it also needed to be accessible via mobile phones, smartphones, and tablets. And we were really pleased to announce that ODC won the tender, and our solution supports the ArcGIS online software licenses, an ArcGIS database, a very niche and comprehensive GIS managed service, and ordnance survey data as well. Just so you guys know who we are, I'm not going to dwell on this too long, but just so you know who we are. So ODC GIS have worked with housing associations like ADRA for over 30 years. We've worked with over 100 housing associations. We currently have over 60 managed service clients, of which 24 of them are using Esri software that we're supporting on a day-to-day basis with the tasks, which equates to more than 1 million properties across the housing sector, and we've kind of got the unrivaled expertise of GIS mapping services in the sector. And what we do is we provide a one-stop shop. So as you can see from the ADRA tender, we kind of provide the GIS managed services and can provide the GIS software, obviously being an Esri partner. We provide data capture services, but then also data sets that enhance the information that you've got, such as the ordnance survey data and land registry data, but then also a wealth of open data sets and premium data sets that we also partner with as well. So within weeks of being awarded the tender, ODC GIS had been provided with the ArcGIS solution, which provides them access to their own business data and other open data sets. And then what I'm going to do is to give you a little flavour of kind of what it looks like and the benefits that they're currently gaining out of it. It is very early stages, but you can, through the demo, you'll be able to see kind of what they're doing and how they're doing with it. So this is the ArcGIS platform. Hopefully you guys can see that. And what you'll see is we've got a web app that is called our asset map. So what I can do is open that map up, but that's where they could potentially have more than one map. They're specifically looking and concentrating on the grounds maintenance teams and their asset teams at the minute, but there's no reason why they can't move that into the development teams or the tree teams and so on and so on. So when we've loaded up the application, you'll see it's really user-friendly. We can zoom in and zoom out accordingly, and we get the correct type of mapping. But more importantly, what we've got straight away is an idea of where ADRA's assets are. So I'm just going to zoom to a location on the map, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom in, and what you'll start to see is we've got our land registry boundaries, we've got our buildings, and we've got our property points as well. There is a theme attached to each of the data sets to make sure that we're looking at the right set of data and understanding it correctly. So, for example, on this little estate we've got here, we can easily identify the type of property that each of our assets is through the colour coding that's attached to the theming of the data set. So what I can do as a user of ADRA is I can click on the map and straight away it presents me with a box that tells me what the information is that sits under the click that I've just completed. So the first thing you can see is that it tells me more information about the property point. So I can see our UPRN, which is their internal UPRN. They've got an address, they've got the asset type, and they've got the owner. And then we've also got access to the building. So the building gives us a little bit more information in terms of the area of the actual building, the perimeter. And then what we've also got is access to the land registry, which gives us the title number, the proprietary name, the address, the region, the class, and the estate interest as well. So there's a lot of different information there, but all this is providing them with the insights that they need to understand their assets better. And as a starting point, just simply getting your assets on a map is a really good starting point to be able to see where they are, compare them to land registry. You automatically know where your land ownership is, and you've got all the information in one place. What they can then do to kind of enhance the way that they're looking at it is they might want to turn on their grounds maintenance data. So this is their grounds maintenance data, and what you can see from there is that alongside their land registry data, we're automatically being able to view the grounds maintenance data that they've got responsibility for. So again, there's a theme attached to show whether it's hard standing, soft standing, road, pathway, whatever it might be. But that gives us a breakdown of what we have or what ADRA have responsibility for within the land registry areas that they've got. They can also turn on things like the highways data. So again, they'll understand straight away whether the roads are available through their title information. So that identifies whether they've got ownership or not. So in this example, I think the highways data is owned by the council. but this pathway that goes through the estate might be owned by ADRA, so it allows them to understand whether they've got a responsibility to maintain that path and keep it nice and tidy through the GIS that they've got available to them. What they can also see is the flooding data. So instantly we can turn the flood information on that's coming from the natural resource of Wales, and these are the flood watch areas where they are predicting that there could be potential floods around their properties. So not only can they see where the potential risk is, but if they had information such as the vulnerability of the tenant and things like that, then they'll be able to prioritise the potential evacuation from a flooding based on the vulnerability of the user as well. So they've got access to that information that's available to them, which is kind of bringing it all into kind of one place. The green spaces data is key in terms of understanding whether tenants have got access to green space and open areas and things like that. So again, this just gives them the idea that the tenants have got access to the information, access to the green spaces that they need. Again, we could do some more analysis on this to show whether the walking times are within the kind of 5-10 minute walking time responsibilities that we've got, but at the minute it's just showing where the kind of grounds maintenance, where the green spaces data is. And then lastly, we've also got environment authority data on there as well. So if we click on a point, we can actually see where there's been a potential pollution incident and kind of the information that goes around that. So that again provides us with the proof and basis to go to our tenants and say that there's been an incident and this is what you need to do about it. Okay, so that's just to kind of summarize kind of where they are at the minute and how they're getting on with the system. As you can say, it's very early stages, but they've got a lot of good ideas, which we'll talk about in a second within the presentation. And then if I can flick back, yeah. And then, so I suppose the business benefits. So the ArcGIS solution is adaptable and scalable. So it's built to meet ADRA's evolving needs, which supports both the growing kind of property portfolio, but also the team's increasing proficiency in using GIS across various different departments. They are creating a centralized database to pull all the data together. So this includes crucial information like repairs history, energy performance certificates and compliance records as well. And it ensures a consistent, complete, holistic view across the organisation related to their assets. That therefore reduces the data silos that they would originally have. So it enables a smooth information sharing between asset managers, repairs, housing officers, development teams, leading to a more integrated and efficient workflow as well. ADRA have now got the benefits of highly accurate ordnance survey data for all the properties, which is vital for land registry, legal documentation and development planning. And then furthermore, integrating with systems like their asset management system, which is ActiveH, provides a much richer data set. So this allows them to provide powerful reports, visualizations and in-depth analysis on property performance, tenant satisfaction and investment as well. And then the very last slide for me, so their upcoming plans. So we're aware that ArcGIS dashboards have been a key discussion during the tender process with ADRA. The platform will make it easier to share centralized data across the business, which provides them intuitive summary of its KPIs. And the dashboards provided will empower key stakeholders to make quick data-driven operational and strategic decisions through the dashboard. They are also looking to update their grounds maintenance data. So we saw the data previously, but they're looking at getting a kind of a package that enhances their understanding of the grounds maintenance and just make sure it's up to date. So we offer various different packages that could look at kind of hard standing and soft standing, but also go into details such as car parking spaces and the location of CCTV cameras and manhole covers. And that'll optimize the kind of maintenance schedule and resource allocation as well. So it's key for making sure that they've got everything within an estate mapped and ready to go. And then finally, they are also exploring the use of adjoining land registry data. So this will give their development teams comprehensive property ownership insights, which will be crucial for future planning and legal clarity as well. And we're currently talking to them about how they might want to use that with other open data sets to enhance the kind of adjoining data sets and development teams accordingly. Okay, so very brief and very short, but I just want to say thank you for listening. And what I'll do is I'll pass back over to Izzy.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Ian. I think this is particularly a great example of how your managed service and our software work hand in hand and support those customers like Adra, seeing their business benefits really quickly to get them up and running. I think great example. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So next, we've talked, I suppose, a lot about data. There's been a common theme across Thomas's and Ian's presentations. And so to continue that, I'm going to pass on to Tom, who's going to share some of the exciting newer data available through the ArcGIS platform. So over to you, Tom.
Thank you, Izzy. Just share my screen. Perfect. So yeah, thanks, Izzy. As it was said at the start, my name's Tom Simpson, and I'm a pre-sales consultant working within the government sector at Esri UK. And we're being introduced to some real-life use cases of GIS within the housing sector with Thomas at Jigsaw and Ian and his work with Adra at ODC. But now to touch on some more of the data, and more specifically Esri data partners, Ordnance Survey and Map Impact, and how they both relate to the world of housing, how you can leverage this within the GIS ecosystem and help understand your assets better, help answer certain questions and mitigate against potential future issues. So starting out with OS and their National Geographic Database, or the OSNGD. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with this offering, it's OS's single store of authoritative data for Great Britain. Gives you the most current and comprehensive data captured by OS in a standalone dataset. It includes many different themes and data categories, but today I'll be touching on the buildings dataset. Now, this includes lots of different attribution, as you can see on the bottom right. It includes everything from access location, roof material, green roof presence, and it also includes some updates which came about in March this year, and they're at the bottom left. So the roof shape, building height, solar power presence, and so on. Now, you may be thinking this is great, but what value does this actually add? Well, firstly, you may want to aggregate this with your existing housing assets, giving it some more data to use for your disposal further down the line, or you may want to carry out some potential workflows from the get-go, including examples here such as solar energy potential using roof aspect and roof material, or catalog your properties with green roof and solar power presence for green initiatives. Another example is figuring out hard to heat homes. Now, using some of the attribution within the building layers, including the construction material, construction age, and the connectivity, so whether it's a standalone property or not, we can understand this. And using this attribution, we can create an index by putting a score next to the contributing factors to gain an insight to which of the properties are potentially harder to heat, not only for then start thinking about potentially improving this, but also taking into account current tenants within these properties and who is most susceptible to this issue. So maybe lower income tenants who can't so freely heat their homes, or the elderly, especially within the colder months. So putting this data into the GIS ecosystem, I've created this index here. So as I said, this is the hard to heat homes index. And it's worth mentioning that this was created through OS. There was an article which they created this hard to heat homes index, and I've just replicated it using the same attributes. So you can see here on the left, we have our map of our housing assets. We have it symbolized based upon the different scoring. And within this dashboard interface, we can interrogate the data. So we can select all the properties which are not too hard to heat, but also we can select some of the properties which are a little bit harder to heat as well. By clicking on it, we can see some of the back-end workings. So we can see here that it's based upon the construction material of a poorer construction material, maybe wood or something similar. It's a connectivity score set to this because it's a standalone property, and therefore it's set as a 2 score, making it a little bit harder to heat. You can also take advantage of some of the filters, being able to filter to certain properties, and also filter through individual properties and zoom into that. We can also aggregate this with some further demographic data, as I said in the slide before, to get an understanding of who's at risk within these properties. So jumping back into my slide. So next up, I wanted to highlight another data provider, which is Map Impacts. Now, what they're doing is providing high-level geospatial data and analytics to help understand and address climate risks and biodiversity, applying AI and satellite Earth observation data. Now, this comes in the form of a few different data sets. Firstly, there's some climate risk-focused data sets, including wildfire risk. There's drought susceptibility, which could be used for long-term adaptation strategies. There's the heat view, and which I'll come on into in a second in a bit more detail. And there's the biodiversity view, which can be used in conjunction with maybe biodiversity net gain initiatives, or even looking at potential new housing development plots and what the land around it and the value of that. So you can see that on the bottom here that there is a housing association that's already taken advantage of this with the Live Housing Group. So it's good to see that this data is being used within the sector. So as I said, I'd go onto the heat view index in a little bit more detail. So what that is, it's a satellite-derived heat score data set. Now, on the flip side of the index that I created for the OS data, with the hard to heat homes, we have to be looking ahead to the future risk and within housing, and particularly urban housing. So thinking of it as hard to cool homes. With sort of towns and cities growing more and more, this urban heat island effect is only going to take more of an effect. So we have to take advantage now. Now, this data set integrates 18 different features from satellite imagery using modern and historical trends in land surface temperature, and including the often overlooked overnight temperatures as well, so giving a really conducive and comprehensive understanding of heat stress. So to show you that data within an application, just move to here. So I have created this application just to show you the heat view index within an area of Exeter. So I have my building layers here, and I've just taken a section of this and I've spatially joined it to the heat view index. Now within the heat view index attribution, there's different pathways. So as you can see on the top right here, we have the RCP 4.5. Now this is the representative concentration pathway, and it's used as a measure of temperature rise. So for an RCP of 2.6, which is included in the attribution, that denotes a temperature increase of between 1.5 and 2 degrees from pre-industrial levels by the turn of the century. 4.5 is between 2 and 3 degrees, and 8.5 is emissions continue to grow unmitigated. So that's the worst case scenario. So in this app, I've created it as a middle case scenario with the 4.5. So what we can do here is we can filter our properties. So I can filter it to very high at the present day. So already these properties are at high risk, or very high risk of heat stress at the current day. We can then look at it on that same trajectory between 5 years, 30 years, and 50 years. So if I jump to 30 years and look at that same filter, you can see already some of the properties that at present day are of a high risk, or some of the yellow ones which are a medium risk, they're already going to be within a high level of heat stress within 30 years. And furthermore, in the 50 year, if I just filter that, we can see that the vast majority of the properties within this area of interest are going to be of a high risk. So it really needs to be sort of focused on and sort of create proactive actions from this. Within here, we can see individual assets, so we can see it based upon its category, but we can also select the data within this area of interest and select it and gain some metrics from it. So I'll just let that load for a second. It is loading. So what we can do here is select all the properties that within 50 years are going to be of a high level. We can gain metrics from that. So we can look at the actions, look at statistics, we can look at the area. So the total area of property which is going to be affected, which may need some retrofits in terms of being more sustainable. And we can also export it and use it within the wider business, other business departments in various formats. Just clear that. We can also take advantage of some of the data in the Living Atlas. Now, what I've done here is I've pulled in some census data and filtered it to an aging population. So we can gain an insight as to who lives in certain areas and who may be at risk within these populations. So we've taken our housing data, we've enhanced it with map impacts, heat view, created an app and overlaid some demographics to create a comprehensive platform for understanding what's at risk as well as who's at risk. So that's everything I was wanting to cover in terms of the data. But just before I finish, I thought it would be worth mentioning that our housing hub page is now live. So this is a fictional housing association named Evergreen Housing, and it's a site where you can see examples of apps that can be used within a housing association as well as resources. So in here we can see some of Esri UK's current customers and read some case studies, including Sovereign Network Group's recent article looking at Power BI and ArcGIS for community wellbeing. We can also look at some of the example applications, such as finding a home. So again, a mock-up of an application that could be created, maybe a public-facing application, looking at characteristics in search of a home of their choosing. It's also reporting an issue, so thinking about tenant self-serving. The building foundation story map, which was created in conjunction with Ordnance Survey. So if you haven't seen this before, I would recommend you go check it out. There's also a section on management, so how different departments within a housing sector association would work, giving a few examples. So like Thomas mentioned in the jigsaw section, thinking about trees and how we can help understand different risks associated with that. So some data collected through field maps and surveys, as well as things like tenant satisfaction and sustainability. And then finally, there's the resource page where we have lots of different resources, including the tutorial series where you can learn how to do different things, YouTube videos, as well as the data catalog for housing. So that's everything that I was going to cover. So I shall pass back to you, Izzy, and thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tom. So at Esri UK, we have a brilliant community of partners who can support your organisation in using GIS as ODC do, or by providing data through our platform. We're always looking for new partners to provide the best data possible to our customers and through our data partner ecosystem and our living atlas of the world. And as all our presentations show, Geography really does provide that lens to connect, compare and analyse all this data together, letting you drive insight from the data that is available to you. So another reminder that the Slido is still open if you do have any questions, and I'm going to try and have a look, see if we can answer some. So hopefully my speakers are still around as well. If you wanted to come on camera, feel free, and I will start firing questions at you, which is, so is Thomas still there? Thomas, the first one's going to be for you. Which is, which data sets did Jigsaw use to determine infrastructure and road responsibility?
Yeah, we use title info. There's quite a lot of data available in title info, and you can clip and draw data from it as you wish. Yeah, title info has been our go-to data set.
Nice, thank you. And another one straight off the back is, what challenges did you face when implementing ArcGIS in Power BI, and how did you overcome these?
We're still working with Esri in terms of publishing our maps in Power BI. There's issues with licensing, which are quite a hindrance at the moment, especially in Power BI. licensing, because you can only offer one license per customer from Esri. So that login and the interaction process is we're still discussing. So at the moment, our maps are available online on GIS Online and all our applications. We only got one or two maps that have been implemented in Power BI. Only those with licenses are able to view them.
Yeah, which I think then comes on to the next question, which was about ArcGIS licensing in Power BI, which I'll answer really quickly, which is that you don't need an ArcGIS license to use ArcGIS for Power BI, but if you want to connect it to your ArcGIS data, so in ArcGIS Online, then you do. And so anyone viewing data that's coming from ArcGIS Online that is privately stored in your ArcGIS Online account would need an ArcGIS Online viewer. So hopefully that answers your question, Chris, but we can follow up more on that as well. So then our next question, so probably one for you, Tom, really. Is there more information or a case study article available for hard to heat homes? What tools were used to build your map?
So it was based off Ordnance Survey created an article looking at hard to heat homes. So it's just using that attribution that I showed, so the material, the age, as well as I've got the other one, the connectivity. So I'm not entirely sure if there's a sort of real life use case, but it was created by Ordnance Survey. So there's that, but yeah, so I can have a look afterwards.
Yeah, we'll hunt it around and send over anything in our follow-up emails too. So I think this one was off the GoToWebinar. So I think it's directed at you, Ian, and about ADRA and where their land registry data is sourced from. So is it direct from land registry? They've mentioned title info, but I don't think it is from us, is it?
No, it's it's the land registry data we provide to them through the HMR. So we've got a national data set that we strip out based on the proprietary name, like Thomas mentioned at the start. So we strip that out and provide them with kind of frequent quarterly updates as well.
Yeah, thank you. And maybe we'll stay with you for this one, but I think, Thomas, it'll also be good to get your thoughts, which is, so what is the best way to get started with Esri or sort of GIS, I suppose, more generally? Do you want to start us off, Ian, and then Thomas, you can
Yeah, it's a good question. I always think it's good to have a project to start with, because GIS, as I'm sure you can tell, can be used across organisations. So I think it's a really good starting point, is to have a project in mind. I think from our experience, it usually starts at grounds maintenance or asset management teams, but then it's got a tendency to kind of expand massively across the business. So I'd definitely start with a particular project in mind and go with the proviso of getting that done before then looking at how you can kind of delve into other departments.
Yeah, I agree. Thomas, anything to add on that?
No, I think that's about the same process that we undertook when we started using our GIS Jigsaw. We had the ombudsman visit us and did an inspection, and we were given time period to report back, and they were going to come back with an inspection to see whether we had looked at what they had asked and we had addressed the issues. So especially for us, it was the tree mapping and looking at our tree stock and seeing how the trees impact our housing stock. So yeah, that project is the one that put us into GIS. And at the moment, the spread within our organization is massive. We are looking at development teams coming on board and asking questions. The boundary resolution teams, they were not even in the picture when we started. So there's a lot we can use GIS within our organization, but at least the beginning is what we need.
Yeah, that's really useful to hear. So the next question is accessing that housing hub, which I think we've just added the link into the comments, but also we'll send it over in the email after the webinar too. so everyone has access to that. We're running out of time, but I think we have enough time for the last two questions that are here. So the first one's about HMLR data in ArcGIS Online and about what data privacy and impact assessments required to support storing that data in ArcGIS Online. I can talk to that, but I don't know if Ian, you had a thought sort of on that data as well. But I suppose I'll start off with especially for our service title info. We don't have any privately owned information in that, so the data is sort of blanked out if it's the property or the land is owned by a private person. So we have commercial ownership, but not private people's information, and so that tends to not need any privacy and impact assessments for our customers. At least I've not come across needing to do them. But I don't know
Yeah,
if you had a thought.
I'd say the same thing. We try not to get involved with personal data being put into the GIS. There are occasions where we've been asked for it to go on, and we've filled in information security forms and things like that. But ideally, the kind of the tenant information and things like that is kind of kept separate in the ideal world.
Yeah, exactly what we find too. But if whoever asked that question wants more information or wants to follow up or does think there's a need for them to fill out some assessment forms, then let us know and we can sort of follow up individually on that as well. So then the last question is about a user community or forum available so that registered social housing providers can meet up and collaborate. I suppose there's definitely a few things going around. I am going to mention on my next slide our Esri UK next events, of which our Scottish conference, we will be having presentations from people in the sector. And so we're hoping to sort of make a event and a meetup of that. There are definitely quite a few groups and podcasts and things available through LinkedIn to collaborate with other housing associations, and we support our customers also to run different events, whether it be around GIS Day or for just general meetup events in that area as well. So yeah, we have a few. I think that is all the questions that I can see, unless there's any more in GoToWebinar that I don't think there is. So we're probably going to leave it there and come to the end of our webinar. Yes, so during this time, we've learned about both the importance of data in social housing, but also about how GIS can be that window into the data, so identifying meaningful insights, informing decision making, and I really enjoyed listening to all of our speakers, so thank you all, and I hope our audience did too. And if you want to find out more, please feel free to explore our website, to drop us an email, either from the email on the slide or in response to our follow-up email as well. As I mentioned, we have a few events at the back end of the year, and so they give you a chance to network with other GIS users and hear from others working in that space. So look out for the registration for these. They're on our website. You'll probably also get emails as well. And so that's it from us, I think. Thank you very much for listening to the webinar. Thank you for all our speakers for coming and talking to us, and I hope everyone has a lovely rest of their day. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.